Welcome to this episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We are married with a ton of kids.
We have 6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
My name's Hallie and I love riding horses.
I'm Lexi and I love agriculture.
My name's Carter and I love eating.
My name's Chase and I love lifting weights.
My name's Summer and I love spending my parents' money.
I'm Dane and I love baseball.
Our show is about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life. And our hope is if you find yourself in the same situation we are in, that by sharing our story, all the fun and all the mess, the challenges we are experiencing, it will give you some inspirations, laughs, and community, knowing you are not alone in this mess.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Let's dive in.
Welcome to this week's episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. And as we alluded over the last couple of weeks, we have just a bunch of really neat and unique guests with different perspectives on life coming up over the next several months. And so one of those guests today is a co-worker of Angie, is how I first met her. But I mean, everything that I have learned about our guest up until this point is incredibly, as I said, unique. And she's all about grit and fitness and zest for life. And Angie's going to talk a little bit about our guest today.
Well, welcome, Shay Gillespie. I am so excited that you're on our podcast. I'll give a little bit of background. So Shay and I have worked together for the past 7 years on various projects. And if you recall, we did a podcast on the first ever Grit with Grace events at WWT for our female customers. It's the first time we've ever done that type of event. And Shay partnered with me on that and was the MC. And the thing I will say about Shay is that Aric, you stole my words, but that you have such a zest for life, just a complete badass of a human. Yes, and insanely in shape. So she's got definitely an appetite for fitness. So she does bodybuilding competitions, always the life of the party. But what I love most about Shay is her authenticity. So completely real person. And I just absolutely love that about you. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. I need to take you guys on the road with me.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. She also has an amazing shoe game that Summer, my daughter, would absolutely love to have.
Oh, yes. Accessories are important.
That's right.
$10 jeans.
What's your favorite shoe, Shay?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God. Red bottoms probably are my favorite.
Okay.
The Christian Louboutins, Gucci, of course, is way up there. Yeah, I like a high-end shoe. Sorry, I do. I may have on some $10 jeans, but
When we were in Houston last and in her place that she has in Houston, I sent Summer a video of her closet and she was like, oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
Amazing.
I know, fun.
It's amazing.
You know, it's that thing when you grow up a certain way, humble beginnings, you know, you either react one or two ways. Like my sister, for example, we're 10 months apart. And so she didn't get I gotta be this and that. So because we grew up poor, for me, it was like, when I get money, I'm gonna show the world I got money. Whereas my sister could care less, you know? So like, I think you give one of two ways. You either don't care about it because you never had it, or you like really care about it. And like appearance is very important to me. And I think because of the way I grew up, it was important, but it was on a lower scale. You know, you just needed to be clean. Now, you know,
I could totally relate to that. I'm like that with travel. Like we didn't take any trips. We couldn't. A huge family, didn't have a lot of money. Our one trip a year, we would go to a local lake for a week, right? So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I want all the trips. Like I want my kids to be able to travel and see the world because,
Yeah, exactly.
So I know our topic today is family, fitness, and faith. So let's dive into family. Okay. Tell us a story or tell us about your family.
Okay, so let's see. I am married. I've been married 18 years. I think it's 19 this year.
Congrats.
19.
Awesome.
After about 5, you lose count. I think 19 years. Yeah. I got 2 boys, 16 and 15. Diggy, my youngest, is 15. He'll be 15 Sunday. My youngest has Down syndrome. So we could talk about all the things that come with that as being a family. But, I like to say I'm the queen of this castle. I love it. God gave me boys for a reason because I can't comb hair. So all I do is take them to get, to the barbershop. But anyway, we're a very close family. I grew up with a sister and a brother. We grew up in downtown St. Louis, what you call the projects. My mother was 17 when she had my sister and then went back for that appointment. You know how you go back to get that little checkup?
Oh.
Pregnant again.
Oh my gosh.
With this special child, the middle child. And then she had my brother by 21. So as you can imagine, that's a struggle. So we lived with my grandmother for a long time until I guess about 10 years old. My mother was in education. She did early childhood development. Very good structurally family in terms of core values. Didn't have a lot of money, but always was taught, right and wrong. You need to respect people and treat people the way you want to be treated and things like that. So I had a great foundation. I was always told I was special, always. I can remember being 4 or 5 at my family saying I was beautiful. Being dark-skinned as a Black, being Black already has its challenges in certain communities and within our own community, but then being a dark-skinned Black person is almost like added, back in the 80s, 90s. That was tough, and so, but inside my family, they always told me that my skin was beautiful. So this is the reason why my head is so big now. So, all you people out there.
You are beautiful, Shay.
Thank you. But preach positivity to your kids because they are listening and it does help. So I think that is the reason why I'm the person I am today is because my foundation was very positive. We didn't talk about, and I think about this later because my husband grew up a little different. He grew up in Webster Grove, so he was more not affluent. They weren't rich, but it was a mother and father in his house, so he had a different structure. But in my family, so they talked about challenges and issues, politics and things. We stayed away from anything that would get us into controversy, any conversation that would be controversial. My family is a fun family. Like we like to have fun. So anything that would raise issues where you'd have like debates or people would maybe argue, we just kind of stayed away from it. So I think that's the reason why my personality is the way it is. I don't get into a lot of big issue conversations with people because, for one, you're not going to change anybody's opinion about anything. So you just might as well have fun and stick to the fun things. There are things that, you can talk about, but that's rare for me. I really try to stay away from things that'll make me angry and things like that. So anyway, that's really the background of who Shay is or how my personality formed. Yeah, so just energy is what I would say has been my focus throughout life and positivity.
All right, so I'll cross the questions about politics off the list for today.
Yeah, please do, because I will be like, whatever you like, whatever floats your boat.
You definitely have energy. I mean, are there days that you do not have energy? And then how do you pull yourself back out of that? Because every time I run into you, whether at GHQ or, different events, you are like so full of life. And I know it's not unicorns and rainbows all the time. So like, what's the tools that you use?
Yeah. Sometimes I do. I feel like I'm doing too much. Yeah. I get overwhelmed. I do, but I think the gym helps a lot. Going to the gym, that is the first thing I do every morning besides get up and pray and thank God that I woke up another day. I go to the gym. That's the first thing. And so I think because I love working out so much, it level sets the whole day. Like I got it in, I feel good, but I do get overwhelmed. And if I do, I just sit with myself, and just kind of think, breathe. I learned to not necessarily meditate, but breathe and think about what to be grateful for. So I'm a glass half full person. And I know it does get hard sometimes because I think I'm hard on myself. Like some days I think I'm lazy. And you talk, most people be like, girl, would you shut it? You are nobody. But in my head, like, you should have done more. Like, so it's more so understanding who I am and calming down, because I am so energetic. So sometimes I just have to sit in a room by myself and just kind of relax, and that, I think that helps. But I do have bad days. There's not a lot of bad days, thank God. And I think the reason is because of the way I think. You know what I mean? Like, some things could be bad, but I will always think, but it could have been worse, or there's a person who is struggling more than you, so shut up because Gucci ran out of that belt. Why are you upset? You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Those are not real problems. I think that's how I see the world, and which helps. That makes sense.
Oh, I can totally relate to that. I mean, I do that just even in our situation, with losing Hallie too. There's a lot of times I'm grateful for different things that have happened that I had that time, right? So yeah. I 100% align with you on it is your mindset that will get you through the hard times, because we're never going to be able to avoid it. So what are those tools that you have in place? And I agree with you. It's paying attention to your thoughts, right? And thinking about what you can be grateful for, even in a challenging situation.
Yeah. And you know what else too? Also, give yourself grace. It's okay to have a number of emotions. The thing I tell my kids is you can have an emotion, but you have to think about next steps. You cannot rest your laurels in a pity party. I give myself a pity party. Like, why did this happen to me? Okay, but I cannot sit in that emotion too long. Now, what are you going to do about it? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to get out of that. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. Now, what next? Because the problem doesn't solve itself, and you're not going to get any better being weeks and weeks angry at something that you can't control or change.
That's maybe a struggle, I would say, right now in the situation we're in. Like, you get sometimes the mindset for me lately, as you go through the stages of grief, has been that anger phase. I can't change it. Doesn't mean I shouldn't experience the anger, but it's the difference in what's a righteous anger versus just an anger that I need to let go of. That's just dumb and I can't fix it. So hold it for a while, have the pity party, and then how do you move on and move through that? What are things you do for that? How do you move through that? Has that been ingrained a long time? Is it your workouts? What do you husband, faith? What are the things? Yeah, it's all those things that you said. Exactly. It's understanding that you can't control, I preach this, I always take this back to my kids because I always preach things to them, like, you cannot control anything. And there's always something. There's always something that's going to happen to you. They're in this space of life where Instagram and Facebook, where they're looking at the beauty of everybody's life. Nobody's posting, not very much, of the things that they're going through. They're only posting, we got a happy marriage. We got a happy life. I just bought a new car. That's what people are posting 9 times out of 10. There are some people who post other things, but for the most part. So you're looking at these lives and you're thinking, they're perfect. Why am I not perfect? And it's a facade. And I just want you to know that person is going through something too. They just choose not to sit inside of that and focus on that. You know what I mean? Just because they're just posting all positive things, you can believe that something has happened to them. Minor, major. It's just some people know how to move past it or find ways to get past those types of things. And so you just can't look at other people's lives and think, oh, they're perfect. Why can't I be? There's always something with everybody. And once you realize that in your life, that there's always going to be something. Once I pay my car off, it's probably going to break. I mean, it could break down. That is inevitable. Things are going to happen, little things. But at least you have a car, because some people don't, so you got to think like that versus woe is me. And so I think that's what gets me through, trying to be as positive as possible. It's not always, like I said, I sit inside negative emotions sometimes, but that's not for a very long time. There's a reason they called it Facebook and not face broken. It doesn't, if they called it face broken and nobody'd be using it, they'd just be like, oh, this is the saddest place on earth.
Exactly. I like that. I never heard that. Face broken.
Just made it up somehow. I don't know.
Look at you.
I lucked
Being
into
all
one today.
profound.
I don't know.
What do you feel like have been just some kind of aha moments for you in life, or kind of some hard lessons that you've had to walk through? And then how did you get through that? Because I think a lot of our listeners, right, like to your point, everybody's going to go through struggles. We have a lot of female listeners too, right? And I think everybody's looking for that sort of insight into how are people navigating some of life challenges?
There's so many. I mean, there's so many things. I think about like just lifestyle credit. Like I remember my grandmother telling me, there's this funny story. Okay. So when I was younger, I mean, like I told you, I was poor. So no one had a car. I mean, you had a car around me. It was a luxury. So I needed to get a driver's license. I wanted a driver's license. I wanted to drive so bad. So I could not, no one would give me their car to drive. I mean, so it's like, how could I learn if the few folks that I knew that had a car wouldn't give me the keys? So I ended up going to some rinky-dink lot. I'm sure the owner should be in jail with what I'm about to tell you. Anyway, I walked in, I had saved some money. I'm like, I want to buy a car. Sure. Didn't have a license. You should not sell me a car without a license, first of all. That should be a red flag, right? So anyway, I'm 19. I don't know. Because by this time, I should have a driver's license. I'm 19. So the guy, I give him the down payment. He said, well, you're going to have to finance. So this car was a 19. Oh, my God. I'm so embarrassed for even saying this. This car was a 1985 Dodge Lancer. And this was, 1996 or something like that, because I was like 19. Yeah, and 97, I turned 20. So anyway, so this car was probably worth $3. No kidding. But I paid $2,000. So I had this note, the car payment. Do you know, I found this out years later, but they gave me the highest interest rate that you can give in Missouri.
Oh my goodness.
23.5%.
Oh.
It's like, they should be in jail.
Oh.
Anyway, so my note was $190. And so at $19, $190 is a lot for a car. Now, I mean, you know what I mean? So anyway, before I I took the car, literally before I got home, the radio went out, right? So 19, you need a radio, right? So I went and got some little radio and sat it in the car. The horn went out. So, when you go get a driver's license, it won't pass if the horn doesn't work. I kid you not. So the lady, I'm doing the driver's test and she's like, blow the horn. So I go, beep, beep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. And she's like, say what now? And I'm going, beep, beep. She's like, no, you need a horn. Like, it's illegal to drive without a horn, I guess. I mean, so anyway, couldn't get the driver's license. She's like, come back when you can get your driver's license. Anyway, I ended up getting it later. But my point of this whole story was the car ended up maybe a month later, went out completely.
Oh,
sitting in front of my house. I walked in, my grandmother for her to be poor, to grow up, we had a big family, 5 girls, 5 boys. And so she was in education as well. My grandfather passed in 91, but they had been married for years. And he was a chef. Anyway, and she just had such good common sense. And she taught me so many life lessons. And so I walked into her house. This car is sitting. I walked into her house and I said, well, the car doesn't work anymore. I don't have to pay for it, because that's what I thought. Like, I thought, it's not working. Why the hell do I have to pay for it? You know what I mean? Like, that didn't click. Like, So she's like, she laughed and she goes, yes, you do. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not working? She said, let me tell you something. Your credit is your life. And if you do not pay that, you're going to destroy your life. Like she literally said those words to me to the point where I was scared, like, damn, I'm going to die if I don't pay. You know what I mean? Like, so that conversation, now I know what she meant. That conversation I paid that note. I ended up getting it towed to another car dealer, Bomarito Nissan. Shout out to them. They came and picked it up. I still talk to the dealer, Gary Eichel. I love him. Anyway, so they towed the car and I got a Nissan Sentra or whatever, and they tacked, whatever I owed on, but it didn't, my car payment didn't go up that much. But anyway, just taught me a life lesson about credit and understanding that is king to your life. Like people, there's a lot of people walking around in debt. And I think it changes your life. It does. Like you can't leverage a lot of things. Like my nieces think I'm rich. You got a house here, you got a house here. And it's not that I have a lot of money. I just have a lot of sense when it comes to money, make good money choices. And I use credit to leverage a lot of things. And I think that's important for people to understand. If there's any especially if you have any young listeners, don't mess up that credit early on because it could change your life. You're going to pay more for everything. And it just is a burden on your life, So that was an aha moment for me that I think changed my life and my understanding of money, even though we didn't have any.
That Dodge Lancer taught a good lesson.
That damn Dodge Lancer. And then it was rust. Did I tell you the color? It was like rust orange, like the worst color you can. Every time I see one every now and then, I just laugh like, what were you thinking?
From humble beginnings, the success story begins. That's where it's at. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and it's so good for kids, right? And we try to explain this to our kids too. Like when you're growing up, you're not learning through the easy shit, right? It's the hard things that ingrains those life lessons into your brain, sure. So no radio, sure. Broken car,
I know, and I think that's where we get our grit, from those things. Like I'm afraid sometimes with my kids because we're in a place where we can provide so much for them. Are we really? Like I'm afraid that I'm not teaching him the value of hustle and the value of hard work because he literally. I mean, you know what I mean? They get so much. It's a tough balance that you navigate every day. Like, am I doing too much for my kids? Is he learning? And you don't want him to struggle, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I worry about that. We talk about that all the time. Like as parents, we have a choice to make. Are we going to swoop in and save him every time? Right. Because right. We had hard times growing up, right? So you want to kind of, what is that balance between protecting them, but also teaching them in those moments? And that's why I wish there was a book on that because
I know
I struggle with it.
I'd say one that I hold a line on. And if I didn't, she would be paying to have the yard mowed. It's like, I don't have time to mow the yard this weekend, but me and Chase are mowing the yard because I want the boys to know how to mow a yard. They're all like, I'm just going to pay somebody to do this someday. I'm like, not when you're 21, 22 years old, you're not. You got to know how to mow your own yard for a while. That's a life skill. Yep,
you're right. Yeah, that's good that you do that. Yeah, it's just tough. It's tough because because you do have the means to. And we don't have time. We pretend like we don't have time to do nothing these days, So, but it's good that you're doing that for the kids.
How does your faith play into just your entire life? And I always like asking this question because for me, I wouldn't say, well, growing up, faith was part of our upbringing, but like me personally, I wouldn't say I was an extremely faithful person until really when Aric and I met. Mm-hmm. So I don't have the whole, this is how it played into my entire life. Right. So how does it play into your foundation and your kind of just daily life?
I think it's intertwined in everything that I do. I'm not an overly religious person, but more spiritual and know that there's a higher power working to help guide you. And you just have to believe, and you have to be faithful that things will work out eventually. If you're doing the right things, like I said, you're treating people the way you want to be treated, you stay positive, you put out a positive energy. Like, that's so important to me. Everybody has bad days, but sometimes they don't know that you're having a bad day, and it's not up to them to figure out why you're acting the way you're acting. So sometimes you have to put on a face, it's not being fake, but it's just, let me sit this to the side because this person doesn't deserve this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I cringe sometimes when I go into customer service, people, that work in customer service, and it's like, I didn't pick this job, you did first. And then second, why do you project that off? Because you don't want to be here. No one has to know that you don't want to be. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like the energy that you put out is just so important to me.
I mean, I know my wife doesn't like going to the grocery store. That's my thing. She's Instacart, but I like going to the grocery store. I get to the grocery store, and if the person on the checkout is like full of life and energy, that's so rare. But it makes such a wonderful experience for you as the individual. It's like, and I'm always like, I always make sure to point out, like, gosh, I hope you have a wonderful day. Yep. Like, you're so pleasant, because they're choosing to enjoy their work and to make the people that are coming through their line have a better experience, rather than just being like, okay, that'll be $24, blah, blah, blah. I mean, those are the people that I love, that really care about what they do. And that doesn't matter if they're picking up trash off the side of the road. Right. And you see, we've got a mail carrier right now that we love. She's dancing around all the time. I stopped her the other day. I told her, I was like, my wife and I love, well, I mean, you just like, I can tell you love your job, and you're just putting stuff in boxes, but I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the key is it's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, happiness or positivity is just going to happen to me. And it's not happening to me, so I'm just going to be mad. Versus like choosing to project that. To your point, we had our last podcast, we had Jarrell Jackson on, and I still think of the one line he said during that podcast was, it's not fake it until you make it. It's fake it so you can make it. And there are a lot of times, right? I mean, you get into meetings or whatever you're experiencing at that time. There is times where you do have to fake it. You do have to ensure that you're showing up in a way that's more God-like, right? That you're there to help other people in a lot of ways. And sometimes helping other people is putting on that positive face, even when maybe you're not feeling it.
And I hate to use the word fake because it just doesn't seem,
authentic. But
put it to the side. Put those things to the side, because the person who you're talking to or interacting to doesn't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? Like that, or, if you're in a meeting, you got all this stuff going on. Just put it to the side for a second, and give what you can to the folks that are in front of you, and that, to me, that's just very, very important, to be aware of who you are in your surroundings and make sure that you're always trying to portray that energy. There's time and place to let go. I'm not saying just be Mr. Rogers' neighborhood all day, but there are times where you need to let go and release, and it's healthy and it's okay for sure to do that. But it's timing, and a lot of different factors that play into that.
So I have another question for you. I'm always curious, for career-focused moms, how do you find that balance, right? You travel, you have kiddos, your mom, your wife, career-focused. How do you navigate that on a daily basis? Because I suck at it.
Is that because you get up at 3:45 a.m.? I heard you say that before we started. My goodness. When do you sleep?
I get so I'm in the bed 8:30. I'm very routine. And that word balance, I cringe.
I know.
Because it sets you up for an expectation that I don't think exists. So what I always say is, sometimes work gets more of me. Like if I have a project, like right now I have I have an EBC coming up, and I have a big conference that I'm leading the charge from a worldwide standpoint coming up in May. So that takes a lot out of me, the planning, the implementation of things, coordinating. Then we're working with a customer, and, that takes a lot out of me. And so sometimes work gets more than my kids. I can't focus on going outside and walking with Diggy like we do every weekend because I got something to do. Or I'm traveling a lot. I have a lot of conferences, so I can't do what I normally do, my routine of cooking every night and things. Or bodybuilding, for example, my shows are all in the summer, so I got to sacrifice my friends. I can't go out to eat. I mean, because even if I'm eating a chicken breast, I don't know what they cooked it in. You know what I mean? So like I have a wedding to go to in June. A week before my show, I have to pack chicken, literally freeze it and pack it and take it with me because I can't take a chance of food out of town and I don't know what they cooked it in and all of those things. So there's no such thing as balance. I just prioritize what's important at that moment. And my kids understand I've been traveling their whole entire life. So since I stopped nursing Diggy 2008, 2009, I've been traveling. So they understand that I travel a lot, plus they're boys. And they're teenagers. So they're like, bye. Bye. So really, they probably could care less if I'm here or not. For me, it's just prioritizing. It's not balance. It's prioritizing what is important at that moment. And so something you can't be everything all the time. And you have to understand and give yourself grace for that you just have to make sure that you're prioritizing what's important at that moment.
Love it. It's a great answer. I have read a lot about that too with the word balance, that it's like balance is not a thing. It's unattainable. That means that if you aren't balanced, then you're failing, right? Yeah. Versus going with what's important at that time.
It's too much ambiguity in the word balance anyway. How do you measure that you're balanced? Like, you know what I'm saying? How do you even measure that anyway? I spent 3 hours here and 3 hours there and 3 hours. I mean,
well, and it's very subjective because I always say, no matter what, I feel like I'm disappointing somebody, right? Because their perspective of my time and what I'm balancing might be skewed based on what I think is priority at that time. Right?
Yep, exactly. So, once you realize that, I think life gets easier. The word doesn't even exist. Just prioritize and do what you can.
Before we ask our final question that we asked to all of our guests, question for me, I guess, would be, you talked a lot about coming up from poor, humble beginnings, and then you love your shoes. Was there one point where you thought to yourself, I'm really making it? Was there like one moment where in life you were like, I've really done well and I'm really comfortable and confident in what I've become?
Yeah. So I think there's two things that is important to me. When I mentor, so when I'm mentoring and I get the feedback from a kid or someone young that I maybe change their trajectory of their life. So, for example, I have a foundation, Color Coded Kids, and we teach kids in the inner cities how to code. There was one of the kids that I've kept in touch with, and he was young and he was interested in coding. And so he was in one of my pilot classes. And today he is a late teenager and he has written a book about African Americans in coding. And he does these book tours and he's been on one of the NBC shows, Good Morning America. He's been on that show. And he attributes that the reason why he loves coding to my program. And he sings my praises everywhere he goes in the program's praises. And for me, that's what we're put here for, right? To make a difference. You know, I can spend money and that's good and well, but at the end of the day, no one's going to be talking about my shoes. Well, they may talk about my shoes at my funeral, but I would like for them the legacy that for me, that I've inspired someone to be, you know, something that they may not have even known about or was exposed to prior to. That's when I was like, you made an impact. You know, you changed somebody's life and you see the result of that. I literally see it. You probably change people's lives every day, but to see it, and to know that you've done that. And then the other thing for me is one time I was Jim Mazio, Jim Mazio.
Yeah.
One time we were outside years ago, building 58, and we were talking about family, and his kids work at Worldwide. A few of his kids worked at Worldwide, and they're just such good kids. And I said to him, that probably is like one of the proudest things, to just have good kids. Like I said to him, I would love, because my kids were younger then, and I said, what I would want is that, to be proud of like raise good kids, and I know you can't control how they turn out. But when my husband's birthday was Monday, and he wrote the best note to my husband, and he just said, thank you for your selfless deeds, that type of thing. And he also said, and showing me by example for the way a man should behave. Like that to me.
Amazing.
Yeah, like that is like, okay, my personal life, having my kids think like that or my son saying something like that means we're doing something right. And then the professional life, being able to influence and serve outside of myself and change someone's life. That's, I think, when I could say, you did good, Shay. Grandma taught you well. Like, I just wish she was here. She passed away years ago, but I know she would be proud, and that, to me, that's what life is about.
That's amazing. You're a beautiful soul, Shay.
Oh, thank you.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
So we do have a question we always ask our guest, and it is, what is your family's favorite tradition?
Yeah, I'm glad you told me this before, because I was thinking, because there's a number of things. I'm going to tell you, I do have some frugal ways.
What?
I do. And my kids, they look forward to this every year. So every year on their birthday, so this is going to happen Sunday, I literally go to Aldi every year since they've been born. I spend about $4.98, and I buy a box chocolate cake with icing and some candles that barely light. And we literally, we have some type of dinner. Either I cook or we go get Chinese or something. We sing happy birthday to this $4.98. And I have this little special, like I have to juice it up a little bit. So I have this secret ingredient that I can't tell anybody, but it makes it a little bit more moist than it is. And they love this cake. Like, people spend hundreds on cake sometimes, my kids love this less than $5 cake. And so every birthday, we literally, awesome. I have done it every birthday, with the exception, I think the first birthday, how you have a big party or whatever. But yes, I make this chocolate on chocolate Duncan Hines cake.
That is awesome. Fantastic.
See, so now I can have more Gucci money.
That's right. That's right. After about 20 years of doing that, you could buy a pair of shoes.
That's so funny. Well, Shay, thank you so much for being a part of Blended Blessed and Always a Mess today. We appreciate your time and can't wait to see you at an upcoming work event with Angie. Look forward to it. It's been too long, but we really appreciate you sharing some of your life story and how you're working your way through life and raising boys and just to appreciate you. Thanks to everybody who is listening today. We hope you have a wonderful week and God bless.
Thank you for listening to Blended Blessed and Always a Mess. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com.
Reach out to us on any of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. Have a great week.